Hello all YouTubers, I am the Weather Dude. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you all for tuning back into my presentation for April 15th, 2019. As always, please consider clicking the subscribe button. If you haven't already, I encourage every single viewer that is watching this video to subscribe. You will do yourself a favor, you'll do me a favor, you will treat yourself with superior weather content from me that you will not find anywhere else. So please consider subscribing and also ringing the bell notifications. Okay, I will be leaving links in the description for my other videos that you can watch. Okay, here are some of my other videos you can watch after this video as well. Okay, and please consider watching the whole video. It really helps my channel grow as well. Okay, so we're going to start off with this map. Okay, so I made this myself. Okay, you can do it on the NOAA website. Okay, this is basically a precipitation map because we're in a weak El Nino right now, and that's probably the way we're going to stay at least through the summer and potentially the fall. So I took basically all the weak to maybe moderate El Nino years, okay, dating back to 1950, okay, from June and November. Okay, and I said, well, what was the, actually this is the temperature, sorry, so what the temperatures will be like. Okay, the precipitation I will show you as well, okay, but this is actually the temperature map. Okay, so you can see a lot of the country, basically all the country, is at least slightly cooler during a weak to moderate El Nino pattern, with the exception of being eastern Washington, which is usually a little bit warmer. Okay, but notice, even the darkest shade of blue is minus 0.5 to minus 0.7. Okay, it's not much. But what this is saying is that we could be a little cooler than average with the temperatures. Okay, in a weak to moderate El Nino pattern. What about the precipitation? Again, the same years, the weak to moderate El Nino years. Okay, I did try to exclude the moderate El Nino years from June and November. Okay, these are mostly weak El Nino years, but I did throw in a couple moderate ones as well. Okay, up the eastern seaboard, we do see that is more wet. Okay, the Midwest, okay, the plains, usually a little bit drier than average. Okay, and also the Northwest is usually drier. Okay, and that's the way we're probably going to turn out for this summer. Okay, so it's like a little summer forecast for you. Say this is going to be a hurricane season, outlook number 5. So, because the weak El Nino will influence how our hurricane season is, which is why I was sharing that map with you. Okay, so sea surface temperature anomalies right now. The North Atlantic right now, especially the Western Atlantic, is just rocking right now. Okay, the Gulf, I mean, we're talking like the Gulf of Mexico is above average. Okay, the North Atlantic is above average. Okay, even the Caribbean, I've noticed, is starting to make a comeback as well. Okay, they were a little bit cooler, now they're starting to really warm up. And notice the Gulf Stream, right? Especially out in here. Okay, Gulf Stream is really doing well as well. Okay, much above average temperatures in the oceans. Okay, anomaly 7-day changes. Basically, how the anomalies changed in the past 7 days. Okay, some spots warmer, some spots cooler. I don't tend to focus on this map that much because, I mean, the anomalies go back and forth. Okay, Caribbean's been doing a little well. Our trend has been up. Okay, the actual temperatures. Okay, notice where the Gulf Stream is. We're probably hanging out in the 70s, even all the way up north here. Okay, as long as you're along that Gulf Stream, you're probably in the 70s. Okay, by the Mid-Atlantic coast, it's starting to warm up a little bit. Okay, maybe get into the 50s in some spots. Okay, whoa, sorry, but the Caribbean, okay, is doing good as well. Okay, temperatures probably hanging around 80. Okay, and maybe even approaching 81 at times. Okay, so it's gonna be a very delicate ocean water for those. That way, the more hurricanes can potentially form. But then again, you're gonna have the wind shear. Okay, so it's gonna be kind of like 6.5 doesn't have another kind of thing. It's gonna be like back and forth, tables turn. Okay, so you can see this is the tropical Atlantic now. We're kind of switching gears. Okay, look at this, North Atlantic again, even by Africa. Well, north of Africa. Okay, but like north of the Caribbean. Okay, up in here, very warm. Okay, 1, 2, maybe even 3 or 4, probably like 2 to 4 degrees above average. The sea surface temperatures right now. Okay, very good stuff for deforming. Just the wind shear and the dry air is your main problem. Okay, and then you have the cooler temperatures by Africa. Okay, that's been trending down lately. Okay, 7-day changes. So we have, it has been warming up some spots by the coast of Africa, at least according to the 7-day change map. Okay, but like I said, North Atlantic, some spots warmer, some spots cooler. The trend is really just back and forth. I really don't see a consistent pattern in this. Okay, Now, the sea surface temperatures of 78 degrees plus have been staying usually south of the 10-degree end line, maybe even in the Caribbean, maybe south of the 20-degree end line. Okay, but it's mainly been suppressed farther to the south. Okay, and the tropical wave were to form here, maybe move out into the west of the Atlantic Ocean. It'll probably be moving through waters in the 70s, but certainly not in the 80s. Maybe like in the mid-70s will probably be your sea surface temperatures. Okay, you might be wondering, well, can I see this on a graph? Yes, you can see it on the graph. Okay, I do provide the graph as well. Okay, if you're a meteorologist like myself, just go over analysis tools, ocean analysis. Here's like a little graph. Okay, so Nino 3-4, we just started trending down a little bit. Okay, which means slightly more favorable conditions in the Atlantic Ocean. How about a place like the Caribbean? I said it was trending well. Okay, and the Caribbean was trending well. Okay, you can see it's been above 0 now. Okay, but it's according to the latest value, 12Z, it has been going on its way down. Okay, I don't want to stall on this too much. We can see the Gulf of Mexico. Okay, again, the Gulf of Mexico has been really doing good. Okay, they were on a plunge, and now they're starting to retreat to above normal temperatures. Okay, so the tropical intensity index. Okay, actually we do have favorable conditions for development off the coast of Cuba, or at least the western coast of Cuba. Okay, we do have some favorable areas for development. Okay, when I looked this morning, this whole area was favorable for development. This whole area right here. Okay, now it's kind of shrunk down a little bit. Okay, that was this morning when I looked. You can see Mexico over here, highly favorable conditions. Okay, the highly favorable over here has disappeared, maybe except for a couple spots. Okay, nothing too much. Okay, but you can see slightly unfavorable, and shown in that yellow color, and highly unfavorable is in that green color, which is basically the rest of the Atlantic Ocean. Okay, so, oh, that's the one I just clicked on. Sorry about that. So, really, the wind shear tendency hasn't been too bad, but we do have some spots of very strong wind shear. Okay, right now, which is why you see like a lot of like this area of favorable that I showed you the map earlier. Okay, our wind shear has been the green and the blue, which is like 20 knots or less, which is basically like 23 miles an hour or less. Okay, so the wind shear has been pretty light in this area, which maybe it's over land. All the weak wind shear is over land, and no tropical cyclone is going to form over land. Okay, so even if conditions were favorable, if a tropical low were to move over this, wouldn't really strengthen tropically, but it could strengthen like with some more moisture, but it wouldn't really strengthen too much. Okay, dry air. Wow, look at this dry air. Okay, it's a lot. There's a lot of it. Okay, eastern seaboard down to the Gulf of Mexico, we got the dry air right now. Okay, it's really hanging in there. Going to prevent any tropical cyclones, even if a subtropical one were to form. Really, it's been kind of low, the dry air over the North Atlantic. Okay, not too much there, but you can see over the rest of the Atlantic. Okay, it's just been lots of dry air to deal with. It's very sad, I know. Well, it's glad if you don't like to track hurricanes. Okay, so 2019 Atlantic hurricane season. Okay, I will show you my outlook towards the end of the video. Okay, and you can see this is what other people think. Okay, Colorado State University, 13 named storms. Out of those 5 hurricanes, out of those 2 major hurricanes. Tropical Storm Risk Incorporated, which is a place I actually never really heard of until now. Okay, but they're calling for 12 named storms. Out of those 5 hurricanes, out of those 2 major hurricanes. AccuWeather, okay, well, hopefully everybody heard of AccuWeather before. 12 to 14 named storms, 5 to 7 hurricanes, 2 to 4 major hurricanes. They're actually calling for an average of slightly above average season. Okay, for AccuWeather. And weatherbell.com, okay, don't really look at this too much because this was, you can see they released this outlook back in March 6th, okay? So, it's very old, but you can see 10 to 15 named storms, okay? 4 to 7 major hurricanes, and 0 to 2 major hurricanes. Now you're like, well, haha, 0, that's not possible. Well, 0 major hurricanes is possible. It's just usually not likely, okay, in a hurricane season. Okay, so we're gonna there's gonna be a lot of stuff to deal with. Okay, actually, if you actually go on Track the Tropics, okay, it's a whole website you can use to track tropical systems. Okay, it's a very neat website to go in to go and check out sometime. Gives you shear, dry air, all this information about what is going on in the Atlantic Ocean. Okay, and you can see there's plenty of tropical surface analysis. Okay, they see like, here, look at this. It's like the big picture. Okay, what's going on in the next 24 hours. Okay, show you some like other maps of what's going on. Okay, because this will impact our hurricane season. Okay, so if we look 24-hour forecast, they're calling for a tropical wave. Okay, right here, just south of Cuba, kind of in that favorable area I was talking about. But as you notice, there's a cold front pushing through. Okay, so that's probably gonna pick up that tropical wave and just shove it back to the south and east. This tropical wave, in the direction it's moving, tell by a little curve. Okay, it's probably moving to the south in a direction like this. So even if that formed into a tropical cyclone, it'll probably be part of the Pacific hurricane season, not part of the Atlantic hurricane season. Okay, and here's that map I showed you earlier, the tropical intensity index. Okay, precipitation next 7 days, probably a good 2 inches plus, 1 to 2 inches plus across the eastern United States. Okay, this is just like a nice website you can check out. Okay, number of storms per 100 years. Okay, this just shows you, don't really look at the numbers, this shows you when the peak of hurricane season usually occurs. Okay, usually it's about, let me get a different color so you guys can see what I'm writing. So usually occurs between late August, so between the second half of August, all of September, and the first half of October. Okay, is your peak time for hurricane season. Okay, September is your peak month, and to get really specific, the peak day is September 10th. That is the exact day of peak Atlantic hurricane season. Now, does that mean you're going to find 5 hurricanes in the Atlantic Ocean on that day? No. It's just climatologically. That's usually what happens. Okay. So, Atlantic Basin storm count. Okay. Okay, again, 2005, 28 named storms. Okay, you can see back there somewhere in the 30s, like mid-30s. That's a nice amount of named storms as well. Okay. But you can see, over time, you kind of see a pattern. A little rise in the Atlantic hurricane activity. Okay, again, warming ocean temperatures, lowering wind shears, they're all factors in going into the hurricane season and how it affects it. So now we're going to show you some track origins, and I'll show you my hurricane forecast. Okay, so for June, okay, usually storms develop in the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean. Okay, and then maybe they usually tend to go up the eastern seaboard or stay in the Gulf of Mexico. Again, this doesn't always happen. This is what usually happens. Okay, so you can see the storms. Okay, they will start in the Caribbean. Okay, maybe they originate like from like right here. Okay, and they can track in the Gulf of Mexico, or maybe like up the eastern seaboard. Potential tropical cyclone 10 a couple years ago in the Atlantic hurricane season is a good example of this. Okay, formed somewhere down here and just tracked up the eastern seaboard up the Carolina coastline. Matthew is another good example. Okay, it was a hurricane, but it did happen in June, but Matthew is also another good example of this. So in the blue is your area of likely. The more likely area, though, will be the eastern Gulf of Mexico at this time of year in June. That's your the more likely spot. In July, the tropical systems usually originate right here, as the lines show. Okay, and they usually track like maybe up the eastern seaboard again, or maybe in the Gulf of Mexico. The only difference between July and June is that in July, the storms are forming a little bit more farther out in the Atlantic Ocean. The environment is not as hostile at this time. Okay, now we move on to August, and this map gets really interesting. Okay, usually tropical storms originate either like just north of the Caribbean or way out here in the Atlantic. Okay, and they can track, the most likely track is around the Lesser Antilles, maybe like just north of the Caribbean. That's your area most likely. But the more likely threat is also in the Gulf of Mexico. Okay, maybe making landfall in southern Florida, going up the eastern seaboard yet again. Okay, so all these prevailing tracks show this. September. Whew, this gets really interesting now. So usually storms can form usually in the Caribbean or way out in the Atlantic Ocean, or maybe right out in here. Okay, just north of the Caribbean again. Most likely tracks into the Gulf of Mexico, up the eastern seaboard, or just bending out to the Atlantic Ocean and just being a big wave maker. Okay, that's for September. October is interesting. These lines, yes, similar to Hurricane Sandy in a way. They form right here, the system usually. Sandy, this is basically what it did. It took a curve out and made a landfall. Just bent back in, made landfall. Your most likely threat here is going to be southern Florida, Carolinas, up the eastern seaboard. That's your most likely threat. Okay, November, the last month of hurricane season. Usually, if storms do form, they form in the Caribbean, not way out in the Atlantic Ocean in here. Okay, and then just track out into the ocean, maybe a little minor tropical storm. But usually we usually see little to no activity in November. Okay, so now for my outlook. Okay, really haven't changed this from my last outlook. I'm going to hold sturdy with this outlook right here. Okay, so what this shows is, so I'm going to call for 11 to 13 named storms. Okay, this will still update. Okay, 11 to 13 named storms, 4 to 6 hurricanes, and 2 to 3 major hurricanes. That's what I'm calling as of now. Okay, here's the AccuWeather's forecast. 12 to 14 named storms, 5 to 7 hurricanes, 2 to 4 major hurricanes. Okay, Colorado State University, 13 named storms, 5 hurricanes, and 2 major hurricanes. And then averages 12 named storms, 6 hurricanes, and 2 to 3 major hurricanes. So that's all for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed. Again, please consider subscribing, ringing the bell notifications, and looking in that description below. Thank you for watching this presentation. I am the Weather Dude, signing off. Till next time.